Tonight, joining us now from Capitol Hill, California, Republican Congressman Ed Royce. He's the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Mr. Chairman, thanks very much for joining us. What's the single most important thing you want to hear from the President tonight?
Well, I think it's probably the buy-in of our allies and other Arab states to make certain that the United States is not going it alone with these airstrikes, but that you see the NATO participation of their air forces, and that you see, with respect to the Saudis, the other Gulf states, their support financially, and frankly, the infantry on the ground. That should be Kurdish forces, that should be Iraqi security forces, Free Syrian Army forces, not U.S. infantry.
Well, the Free Syrian Army forces are relatively weak right now. They really can't get the job done, can they?
You know what they need is are the weapons that they've been waiting for several years to obtain. And I think that will be another vote in Congress, whether or not we go forward and give them the weapons they need. Frankly, this is something Congress has to step up and do, just as we need to get the weapons to the Kurds. The Kurdish foreign minister let me know several weeks ago. They did not have the anti-tank missiles, the artillery, the long-range mortars that they needed in order to turn back the ISIS attacks. So these things need to be discussed and supported by Congress.
Well, how worried are you, because I know the administration is worried, they haven't done it yet, that weapons provided to what's called the moderate opposition, the Free Syrian Army, could eventually wind up in the hands of terrorists, whether al-Nusra, and there have been some alliances between the Free Syrian Army and al-Nusra, especially in the south, not far from the Golan Heights, or may even wind up in the hands of ISIS, just as so many other U.S. weapons in the hands of the Iraqi military are now in the hands of ISIS.
That is why you vet them, and that is why we need to provide the air support. Frankly, these units, such as the Peshmerga, yes, they will run away if they don't have air support up against a well-armed group like ISIS. So the other element of this is support from the United States, from France, from the UK, from Australia, our partners in this, to bring air support into play, right? Because infantry on the ground, when they're up against forces like ISIS, have a tendency not to do well. With air support, there's no question we can defeat 17,000 insurgents, but it's a critical part of the plan. We need to hear the whole strategy.
Because it's not just a bunch of terrorists, it's for all practical purposes, especially in Iraq, an army that ISIS has created. A lot of those Sunni Iraqi generals and colonels who worked for Saddam Hussein, who were kicked out, they are now battlefield commanders for ISIS. Isn't that right?
That is a big part of it, and a lot of this, training comes out of southern Russia. The Chechnya officers are down there, the Chechnya terrorists. They're training these new recruits. So yes, 50% of the combatants come from around the world. They're recruited off the internet, but then they're trained, and the Chechnyans, and as you say, these old hardline well-trained officers, put them through their paces. They learn explosives, they learn infantry strategy on the ground. So at the end of the day, they're an army, but they're only an army of 17,000, and air power can do a lot of damage to an army of 17,000.
Some people, by the way, I've heard from some intelligence analysts who say it could be 15 to maybe as many as 30,000 ISIS forces, but that's just the number I've heard thrown out. I don't think there's a specific number, right?
The longer we wait, the more their forces grow. And this is why, frankly, 7 months ago, when they broke out of Syria and began that long trek city by city, that's when they should have been hit from the air. That would have basically built up the resolve or the spine of the Peshmerga forces and other forces. But now we must act because, frankly, it's at critical mass. They are sending out this message that they can't be defeated. Those who are joining their ranks need to see that, yes, they can certainly be defeated, and we should take this battle to their base, the training base, because that's their sanctuary. You never want to allow that sanctuary to remain for the next generation of trainers, right? That has to be taken out in counterterrorism. That will probably be part of the plan expressed tonight.
We'll see what the President has to say. 9 p.m. Eastern, that's when the President addresses the nation. Live coverage, of course, here on CNN. Mr. Chairman, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Wolf.
Ed Royce is the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee.